Next, where you'll be at this, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was able to change the title. Well, on this, so I'll have to do it. I'll have to pay attention next time. Live streaming, I know that. There we go. Oh, start video. There we go. And okay, ready to go.
Okay, at 6 o'clock, it's called the final committee to order. Roll call, Fran.
Keller,
Present.
Congrove,
Present.
McCreary.
Present.
Also in the tent, we've got the mayor tonight, and we got our village administrator, and Fiscal Officer Brian. Approve the minutes of April the 10th, 2023.
I read the minutes, so I'll make a motion that we approve.
I also will approve.
I got a motion in a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Brian.
Cosgray,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes. Visitors, so you weren't here, Brian will come in. Quillins, they come in, they want to talk about the parking down here. And since all of us are here, they don't want to sit in here all night.
Sure, sure.
So I'll go ahead and talk, we'll give you 5 minutes here in the finance meeting. Okay, you want.
For you guys' last meeting, you said that you wanted me to come in and clarify exactly what I'm asking for. I'm asking for 2 to 3 parking, 1 hour parking spots only during business hours in front of my building, mainly for the sole purpose of my Meals on Wheels customers that I now have coming in. I have several that are on walkers, canes, and they're having a hard time finding a spot out front to be able to park. Last week I had a customer, her husband and her were trying to come in. She has a walker. She was trying to come up the sidewalk and get up the stairs with the side or with the walker. It was very hard for her because there was no spots directly out front. My thought on that is if we eliminate those first couple of spots with 1 hour parking, anybody who's anticipating on knowing they're going to stay longer than an hour will park elsewhere, as to where the people who are coming in for Meals on Wheels generally come in, eat, and leave. That way it'll free up some of the front parking spots for them to be able to park. The only other thing that I'd like to request is that lines be painted on the side street, because if one person parks in an awkward way, nobody else can park in that area. And it makes it very hard when that is my side is my only parking in the front. So if we could have lines painted, I know that there's going to be painting out here. If we could have a couple, spots actually dedicated for parking there, that would be fantastic. Just to try and alleviate that.
In what specific, because you said business hours, but I know your hours are different than normal business hours. So tell council what time frame are you looking for?
So I'm only asking for from 8 to 2. That's not even my full business hours. I don't need it at 6 o'clock in the morning. If we just start at 8 to 2, that way they start coming in at 9. And then that way they have the ability an hour beforehand to know that there's going to be open spots there.
So you're just asking for 2 spots in front?
Yeah, 2 to 3. I never asked for 100 feet in all 4 directions. I myself have a renter upstairs. And that at street parking is for only parking. So for me, if I just have, 3 spots, 2 to 3 spots out front, that would be fantastic.
Did you have this same issue prior to the Meals on Wheels program?
Yes, ma'am.
but you are aware when you purchased the business, that property, that there was not
Right, it's a
handicap.
mixed use district, I'm aware, yes. Or I was aware, but I have no off-street parking. And as of right now, my own staff, we're parking in the church parking lot without permission. And I'm waiting for the day that they come over and say, hey, you can't park here anymore. So right now I've alleviated my own staff parking by asking them to park in the church parking lot. But I feel that there will come a time when they ask me to no longer park there. So when that time comes, then I've got to find parking for my staff as well.
Are you open every day of the week?
I'm closed on Sundays.
So this 8 to 2 is 6 days a week.
Yeah, Monday through Saturday.
You don't have any more questions? And we'll talk about this in council tonight. I know you guys even want to stick around. So, and this, we have a first meeting tonight. And
Second.
Technically,
well, yeah, the second meeting tonight. Yeah, we've already had one meeting. Yeah, the second meeting tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Anybody else want to talk tonight? This is finance meeting, so we're kind of keeping it.
Well, hold on, hold on.
I didn't know anyone else come in. So this is finance, so I'm just kind of giving you about 5 minutes. We got a finance business to talk about. But you can stick around for a council tonight when we bring this up during council.
Okay.
I'm sorry I came in just a little late, but I did hear what was asked, and I'm sorry. I did hear what was asked. 2 spots. I mean, there's 2 spots, right? On, I believe there's one on Market, and then there's another one on the side of the building, both directly in front of that business, not in front of my house. I have no issues with it being 1 hour parking. But I do want to ask if it really is for people with handicap situations, walkers and wheelchairs, that, you know, council should consider, or committee should consider handicap spots for them. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to speak?
He said what I was gonna say. I mean, I think handicap spots are more reasonable than 1
And
hour.
you can all, like I said, you're all welcome to stay at council. It starts at 7:30. This is finance meeting, then we go to rules. Then at 7:30, we go to the council meeting. Okay, thank you for coming on. Okay, Brian. Goals for 2023, keep spending within the 2023 appropriation. Old business, none. New business, review the monthly financial, Brian.
Okay, last month we reconciled with a bank and book balance of $2,739,987.82. We had the only adjustment that I had to make at the end of the last month was there was an unidentified NSF that was came out of the bank account on the last day of the month, and we don't get that notice for another 4 or 5 days. So I didn't know. That's why it says unidentified NSF. So NSF was for a utility bill, but it's been rectified this month, so that'll fall off next month. The next page, that's, you know, the difference of $200. That's what I just talked about. The difference between the calculated bank balance and the prior bank balance. Oh no, the entered bank balance. Sorry. Outstanding checks. $2785.51, and 2 outstanding deposits, $1,034.07. Those are credit card transactions. So that's pretty much it for the reconciliation.
All right, go forward with that. Compare on the card.
Oh, on the check register, yes. One was the insurance company wrote us a check to repair the truck, and the other, so I just issued a refund warrant to pay that out. With that, then the other portion was for a deductible.
the right one.
Yes, those are the Riker ones. Last month we wrote $239,016.67 worth of checks.
Where's the 10,000 people bank?
Huh?
$10,000.
That's our monthly payment for the for water treatment plant. Mhm. That's- That was for the zero turn mower.
Oh, that's right. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Moving on.
Okay, Rita, Star Ohio, we received, interest was $22,196.65. Rita, their income tax collected was $101,752.96. And then down the left-hand side, appropriation status for all the major funds, general funds at 30%, street fund at 23%, water fund 13%, sewer operating 23%, and storm 26.6%. At the end of April, we should be at or below 33%. So, and as you can see, we're at or where we should be on all the revenue lines except for cable franchise fees, but we'll get a check there either this month or early next month. So, yeah, that comes in quarterly. But as you can see, income tax is 37% projected. We're above 50% on property tax collections because that comes twice a year.
Okay, going back to reading monthly.
Mhm.
I know last year they were down 48,000.
Mhm.
I know most people have to do the taxes and is that why most of them?
Well, no, usually Rita, they give us three. What they do is they reconcile last year was 148,000. Last year was 2022. So what they do at the end of each year is they do a reconciliation. And then if they find, well, they basically refund us additional monies after they do they make sure everybody's been paid, refund wise and so forth. And then whatever left over on the collections, they remit it to us in one payment. And that's usually in May or June. So that's why last year it was received towards the end of the month. And then the appropriations. On the appropriation side, street lighting is still about 2 percentage points higher than what it should be. Although I looked at it today, it is going down every month. So hopefully that what we projected 32,000 for the street lighting is going to be a good number. Because we are above the collections, the income tax collection fees for Rita is up 1%. Income tax collections, income tax collection fees. Yeah, they, every month they give us an allotment, but they also take away about approximately 7 to 8% in fees to pay refunds and that kind of stuff. And it would make sense it'd be 34% because we're running about 28% above last year's right now. So.
Anybody have any questions?
Just on some of the codes on the payment listings,
Codes.
the
Okay.
codes where it says type,
Okay.
is there like a?
Let me pull it up.
Okay, this is where I'm looking. I was just curious. Yeah, yeah. I'm just kind of looking at something. I answered my own question. Sorry, Mom.
The codes are on the back page.
Yeah, they're at the very bottom.
Well, it's cleared, voided, outstanding.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, anybody have any questions, Brian? I hear a motion to approve the financial report.
I need to approve the financial report.
And Josh, here a second.
I got a motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
McCreary,
Yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes. Anybody else have anything for the finance meeting?
Wait, there was something. We're new business.
Okay. Next meeting is June the 12th at 6 o'clock.
Oh, hold on.
One of those ordinances.
No, they went through service.
Those are both. Okay, never mind.
I was trying to think there was something else I wanted to bring up. I thought about this afternoon. I thought about it this afternoon.
Do we have $10 in the account for office supplies?
Do we have $10 in the account for office supplies?
I suggest you buy some Post-it notes.
He's not that old yet. Didn't you need them?
It wasn't insurance. Oh, that's what we were gonna bring up, weren't we? That's what we were gonna bring up. I thought this was during finance. Or was you gonna bring up something? Was it you was gonna bring up something like water or sewer later?
Yeah.
Was it water or sewer related stuff? Maybe not. Okay. Oh, I know. I just thought of it. I just thought of
That was the winding road to get there.
it. Well, yeah, I just thought of it. You gave me the task of, which you didn't bring it up last month, and that's what it was. You gave me the task last month. Once we hired Brian, had his salary, compare how we budgeted
Yeah.
versus, if we're going, okay, let me put this up on the screen. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Holbrook went from the police department to the administrative side. So as you can see up there at the top, the police department, there's really no issue with the police department. Zoning's okay too. When we get to the mayor administrative though, as you can see, the numbers in red, bringing him on at 75,000. So right now, we're okay right now, but down the road, we're gonna have to make some adjustments on the mayor administrative side. I got Mr. Holbrook budgeted at 20% zoning, 20% mayor, 20% streets, 20% water, 20% sewer. So we're about $5,400 short there. So we're gonna be short PRS wise and Medicare wise, and medical and hospitalization's okay. And life insurance will be shy there too.
We're not over $10,000.
On the street department side, no issues there. Bringing on Scott Oliver as the water operator of record. We're okay.
Scott, how we talk about it? We're okay now.
We're okay. Yes, even because,
I know we lost, but
well, but in that budget was not only Joey, also Tim Boucher was, part of his time sometimes, anyway, he works on the water side. But Tim here lately has been 100% street department. Losing Joey, Tim Little bounced back and forth. So, his charge. So we're okay on the water side right now. 2. So same with the sewer. Okay.
So you said we're short, so where are we gonna get the money at? Where do you think you're gonna pull that from?
Well, that's a good question, and I have an answer for that. Basically, we had in the budget, we budgeted close to $16,000 as a debt service payment, because originally what was going to happen, Chief Tussey was going to buy vehicles and take out a loan. That never happened. He just bought the vehicles outright. So there's that chunk of money that can be available to reallocate.
Okay.
Any questions on this?
No.
I don't have any more questions. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, are we ready to adjourn now, or anybody else? All right. Next meeting, June 12th, at 6 p.m.
I think I wrote that down on a post-it note, Mayor, but I lost it. I said, I think I did have that on a post-it note.
Oh.
I just lost it. Chuck, I can give you.
I guess I'll call the meetings to order for the Rules Committee at 6:24 tonight. Roll call, please.
Reedy,
Present.
Schaffner, Foreman.
Present.
In attendance, we also have the fiscal officer, the village administrator, the mayor, and 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 3 council members. Oh, gosh. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
Foreman makes a motion, we approve them as written.
Schaffner seconds.
Oh, Foreman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And I lost my place.
Visitors.
Oh, yes. Do you have any visitors that want to speak during the Rules Committee? I almost said Mr. Mayor. Bob, would you like to speak during the Rules?
No.
Okay.
Probably not.
And you guys, you're waiting? Okay. Okay, 2023 rules, the department table for the VA and finalizing the VA job description, and table that one also. Old business. Ready? All right. Village pay scale. I'm the one that brought this up. What I'm attempting to do, after we have that spreadsheet, is, about bumping pay scales. As we know, we've lost some people and we don't need anybody else. And sometimes I believe some of them need to have their payout. Not a bump, or not a like percentage or whatever, but an actual bump. Hopefully you could understand it. If we give them half of what never did the max, that's what the middle stuff's all about. Then,
Oh, that popped up there. Okay. It popped up there, sorry.
well, and the office assistant should have been carried all the way over, and then you would know what the bottom dollar was, but that's okay. Any comments?
It's been a, and it kind of goes back to the evaluations. So every year we do evaluations, and for staff, there are increases kind of tied to evaluations, but there's a cost of living adjustment. And I'm more of a proponent of your evaluation should bear on your bonus. And instead of competing for, well, I gotta be an exceptional employee to get 3% to maintain, you know, with a 4% inflation to almost make what I made last year, next year, as opposed to almost private sector side. Yes, you get a pay increase based to go along with cost of living, not a guaranteed one like you'd see in a union contract, but you know, okay, here's my evaluation. I did good. I'm getting a 3% raise in my hourly rate, but also a X dollar bonus for how well I performed last year.
But
Right.
bonus is not a pay.
Bonus is not a pay, but I think we have to factor it in because of the way Brian has to do accounting and we have to do the allocations. We kind of have to factor in if you're going to do something like that. Again, it's not exactly on the pay, but I think, at least in my head, it should be part of it because when we talk about, okay, here's the pay, and then next year, if they get a good evaluation, we're going to give them 3% more, which will bump them up to here. But then you're competing to keep a similar salary as opposed to here's my pay, here's my bonus. So not exactly the same, but related. Make sense?
Not from out in the world, but
Yeah, you heard the word bonus, and I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know that, I've not been here long, but I've never seen a situation where we really paid any kind of substantial bonus.
And that's my point is we do an evaluation, but at the same time, we say if we don't give everybody 3%, inflation's at 6%, they're losing 3% on next year's salary. So we give everybody a 3% cost of living adjustment and the evaluation means nothing. Where an evaluation, I guess what I'm trying to say is we should have a wage determined at the end of each year based on inflation, where does everybody's wage adjust to? And then your evaluation is based on your performance and can vary.
So some people make it 3%, some people make it 8%. Or 6%.
Or theoretically, or everybody gets 3% and one person gets a $3,000 just cash payment and one person gets a $6,000
I think
bonus.
that gets pretty.
what do you base the bonus on? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
And
I mean,
the evaluation.
But that should change you moving forward, not a one-time.
I think it should do, and you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. My problem is we do an evaluation and we cap it at 3%, which is less than the cost of living.
Right.
So you have to be an exceptional employee to almost make next year what you made this year. And that shouldn't be the way it is. If we're giving you an evaluation and increasing your pay, it should be cost of living adjustment plus something.
I think the problem we have now is that we've shot some of the least experienced people to the top of the pay scale, and some of the most experienced people falling behind.
Right.
And I'm not sure how percentages year over year alleviate that.
Right, and at some point, it's almost like a hard reset, and that's kind of, I think, what you're getting at. What do we have to adjust?
We need to adjust that. Yeah. Example, let's see, I don't know what the title is right now, but, gosh, girl needs money. I mean, she needs more money than she's getting right now. And I just don't want to see some of these people leaving because they could get a better pay someplace else for doing the same thing.
Or less responsibilities for the same pay.
Or better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see us lose anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what prompted me to start this. And that's fine. But then we see the spreadsheet up there. And it's like,
Which one?
well, I mean, I saw the previous.
Oh, you mean what the cost compare? Okay.
Oh, we don't have money for this. We don't have- But.
Right.
Okay.
We don't have enough
You're-
money allocated, it doesn't mean we don't have enough money.
Right.
Well,
There's a big
true.
difference. We have the money.
We just have to move.
You're talking about this spreadsheet. You're talking about this spreadsheet?
Well, that was what I was talking about when I was looking at it. But like he said, we did move stuff around.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We also have a bunch of unallocated funds.
Right.
The carryover.
And we still need to hire someone, don't we?
Mhm.
What about that Tyler guy that knows stuff? I mean, I don't know a lot. I just know that.
Tyler wants way too much money. He wants $60,000. And he didn't call Brian back twice. He's a no.
I reached out to him, he never called back.
And he wants $60,000.
I don't know if that's a problem. Is it? Is that a problem?
Yeah. Because he left, he would be back somewhere in the billing range. I mean, it's 20,000 more than he left. He doesn't have a license. It moves him ahead of our wastewater one operator, salary wise.
Oh,
It moves him to, so.
we have my services.
Yes. It's up here.
Um,
Oh, wrong one.
I'm throwing it out. What does everybody think?
Where do these numbers come from?
I don't know where the max came from.
Well, I mean, what you're proposing.
I did half. I took half of this, what the max was, and put it over here.
So
Yeah, I couldn't figure out your first column. I mean,
the next
The first column is what you gave me for current.
current pay, what people are making right now,
The
yes.
second one is if we would increase them by half of this max that's out there.
And how much percentage is it? What we talk about half the max?
Half.
Okay, you want me to pull up the scale?
We always use the pay scale. We have,
Yeah,
it's,
Hold on.
the max, Brian, did you give her the max from the pay scale?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can pull that
You can
up.
always adjust the pay scale.
Well, I understand that, but that's just where I had to start. I mean,
Yeah, you gotta start.
That was my next question, like, so you use half of the max, and
You're talking about,
what was the reason behind that?
you're talking about, as soon as it comes
Just-
up.
just where to start.
There it is. There's the
You know,
pay scale.
If the max is giving the service operator or the service supervisor $6.50 more an hour, the half of it would be $3.25, you know? But it's just where I start. It's just, I think we need to bump things.
Let me,
I think that's reasonable.
There we go.
okay, we'll hide these columns
Thank you.
because those
Keep going.
are the years are gone by. There we go.
You could probably hide 2019.
How this spreadsheet came, well, before that was the minimum, and then we had the maximum for the one, and then we bumped up, 2021 was bumped up. I believe, oh no, everyone got the red, but then we bumped up those years, the 1 year, 25%, and then 3% each year after that. So that way there was some wiggle room, because it seemed like we had a lot of people maxed out at one time. Because all these are formula driven, like right here, let's use the police captain here. That's his See, they're bumped up 3% each year.
One example, service supervisor says 41.55, and that's what's in this max every year. Totals if we give it to them, 41.55. That's where all that stuff came from. But if we would not give them the max and give them half or whatever, just a bump.
So what you're saying is you took the difference between where they're at now and the max and went to the middle of that.
No, I took the max. Example on my spreadsheet, it's 41.55. My spreadsheet says
Oh, I lost it.
50 an hour if you're gonna go 28. What's the number of hours? 28.20?
2080 for full-time.
28, that's it. So I took that, divided it, and that's where the 650 comes from over here, way over here. See where it totals if we give max hourly 41.55.
Right.
All right, so if you go over, if you divide it by that 28.80, it's 650 an hour. So then if,
If you divide
Multiplied 655.
I'm sorry, yes,
2080
$2,080.
by,
there should be formulas in there.
Well,
So then I know.
the spreadsheet you sent me did not have formulas in them. My spread
Up at the top,
my spreadsheet could not
the
read,
yearly.
my spreadsheet could not read your cells.
Okay, if you look at the yearly part, there's formulas in there.
I guess, okay, so let me just. So right
So
there,
that's
we're at the
six.
max.
Yeah, it's those six.
So how do
It
we
would
get
take
there?
650
There's a formula there.
to
See, there's the
be the
formula.
equivalent of the yearly max.
So 650 an hour is the difference between the max and what.
Additional
The service supervisor is
additional to what they're making.
And so if we only do half of the bump, you get the 325 of it.
Oh, I get it. I get what you're doing.
I see.
I see.
And I left
I
the
screwed
water
myself then.
operator with just 78 all across the board, because that's what he is. So it's just a place to start, but I think these people need more money than they're getting.
Well, what did they get in January 1st, Brian? They got 3%?
Yes.
Okay, so now we give them 3% in January, then we give them another 3% in May. So then they got a 6% almost raise for.
But like I was saying, the part of the problem is these percentages don't straighten out the disparity that we've created inadvertently over the last few months of having some of the newest people at the highest salaries with little or no experience, and some of the most experienced people with tons of experience way below them on the pay scale. And so the percentages, we're not doing like 3% across the board because some of them we're not changing a bit. They're already back. They're already as high as we should make them. I'm worried about some of these ones who all of a sudden are 20,000 plus dollars below. They've been with us for a decade or even more than 20,000 plus below. And yeah, there's different jobs, different things paid different amounts, but we've really kind of messed up the relationship here on some of these people's pay rates.
Is some of that due to increase in responsibility, accountability, as well as, I wouldn't say experience, but training? Does any of that have to do with that?
Not that I can see.
And I mean, in the
I mean,
IM,
Scott's a good water operator, but absent Tim, I mean, I don't believe he feels like he could fix the plant. When Brian said he has 0 on the water plant this month, I know better. So yeah, it's like a lot of the things that need fixed at the sewer plant and at the water plant rely very heavily on Tim.
I know he went there, Ray.
Yeah, and so then for one, I get one operator's not licensed the way he needs to do that, and there should be some disparity because of that. I got that. I don't disagree with that. But he has also been with us for, I don't know exactly how many years, but a lot of years. And
8 years, 9 years.
And this is another good example. I mean, Brian's the one who made the statement that she runs the office, and from what the village people who live here see, she does to a great extent. Okay, so am I saying she should be the highest paid person in the office? No, but there shouldn't be this much disparity.
And then, and I'm with you, and then to Chuck's point about 3% earlier this year, that's fine. But inflation from last year to this year was at 6.5%. So someone would need to make 6.5% more just to make the same amount of money this year as they did last year. But when you get them 3%, their actual value is going up, their real value, but the nominal value of their dollar is going down.
We should have looked at this in January or December, again, when we look for wages.
Didn't happen until after January.
Yeah.
The disparities I'm talking about happened in the last 60 days.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about the water. And the administrator.
Yeah.
He's not up there, I don't think.
He's not,
No,
but,
it's not.
but we all know that we talked about the
Yeah.
difference in what Terry made, what Brian's making in the meeting where we did that. So that was a big jump
Mhm.
for the person in that position, regardless of who they are.
Well, I thought water operator, I thought that when we gave 78,000, I thought that was a little high compared to everybody else. But now, now he's already set in stone.
Well,
So now you have to bring,
the problem is that you have to compare to everybody else in the village, maybe. But compared to other class 2 water operators, it's on the low end. So we have to be, we're never going to compete with Columbus,
No, but
but we have to be
better.
competitive.
And some of these people don't want a job in Columbus, so you're not gonna lose them to the fact. So we don't need to be head to head,
Right, we don't, but we need to be competitive.
but we need to be more cognizant of these disparities, or we're gonna lose some really, really valuable people.
well, you're always gonna lose them because you take a village of Bowmore, we can't compete with a bigger city. So, and it's just like a police force, it's like that. In the village, you pay them so much, but Columbus is so much more. So if they want to go to Columbus or go somewhere, where there is more money, yeah, you're gonna lose them. You can't help that.
We can, but we can try to be more
Yeah, we can be-
competitive wage. And then there are other things, council, and nothing's coming to mind, but we can find other ways to make it attractive to work. And if you already work here,
Well, you
stay here. Your other
You make
fringe
a fair
benefits.
living so you can make a living,
Exactly.
raise a family.
So yeah, sometimes just being close to home during the day is important. to us.
Especially with that
Right.
cost of living.
Yes.
So how do we go about and what are we gonna do?
I think the government proposal here is
That's a good start.
a really good start.
So the question is, your proposal had the positions that have that disparity are here. These are the ones that are an example.
I believe so. Does anyone else think of something?
Well, we got this, I will say that I'm still, and maybe I'm too much in my day job and stuff with other stuff, but I know, because we talked about the administrator's position, but the person that runs everything on your base salary, not counting overtime, I am of the opinion that the person running it should usually be your highest paid employee, because they are the person running it. Now, there are some accounts,
So you're gonna go above the water operator and everything?
absolutely, because the water operator reports to the administrator.
But when the water was here, that wasn't the case at all.
That wasn't the case, and that was a unique case.
Yeah, we asked about that.
Terry, when she got hired, agreed to take a lower salary. She had asked for a little more. She had agreed to take, and Chuck, you might remember. Agreed to take a lower salary and then asked for a review a year or two later to increase her salary more than the 3%. And the council at that time, which is only Chuck remaining, chose to never take that up. But that was how that came about.
And her salary, around 56.
Yeah. And that's why she didn't have a lot of administrator experience. She had experience in the private sector. And so her private sector salary was not going to be matched by the village off the bat. So it was, well, can we do this? And then at the year, if I'm doing well, will bump me up to this. And that council just chose not to take that up.
In the real world, though, what you're stating isn't reality, though. I mean, it isn't. There are lots of companies where people in the company make more than the CEO, there are lots of instances of that. And especially when you start factoring in years of experience and years of service, it's like it took some of these people that make more years to get there versus the person that was just appointed as CEO.
And I said,
There are reasons to
there
not
are
do that.
some exceptions, but in general, I mean, it's all the news right now. CEOs are making so much more than the employees that are doing the work.
You can pull out cases. You can also pull out extreme cases that go the extraordinarily opposite.
Right. In general, the person in charge should be.
I am the lowest paid employee in my company, I guarantee you.
You are the owner of the company though, so that's a little different.
It is.
Because I'm the lowest paid employee in my company, but I'm getting dividends and
Generally, I can agree with what you're saying, but we can say reasons why in this particular instance, maybe that may not be the case.
Okay, so what is it that you're saying? That you don't want anybody to make more than Brian?
No, I'm just saying it's part of the conversation.
Oh,
That,
okay.
yes, you said that when you're thinking about this, depending on how you're adjusting, you very well could create a disparity that we're trying to get rid of by creating a disparity where an employee that is a level or two below the administrator is making considerably more. And you want to be cognizant of that
Well,
Duly
because
noted.
it should not.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Duly
I
noted.
understand that. If he had 15 years and he had 15 years or whatever, I understand that. We're not there yet, but I really do think that we need to.
So let me make an observation here. So, the hospital lab, did, like an industry standard for like that kind of work. And they gave everybody like a 6% increase because people were going to other labs because they get money. So that's apples to apples, right?
Right.
So these job descriptions with like water operator that are licensed, these are like, rather specific and specialized skill sets. And, you want to pay people for their skill sets. My supervisor, who in the structure is in charge of a couple of different labs. So I'm the lead at my lab, so I run my lab, and I have a supervisor who oversees a couple of different labs. Now that supervisor, their max pay scale and all that is greater than mine. They just hired this new supervisor in, and I'm the lead at my lab, but I get paid more than she does. Because I have 30 years of experience and 12 years in that
That's
lab.
the point we're trying to make.
Yeah.
That's the point we're making.
So I don't see that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not. No.
It's sort of similar to the situation we have here.
You know, had she had 30 years in there and, whatever. I'm just, I don't want to lose anybody. And I'm afraid we're going to start losing some because we've already had that rumors that we're going to start losing some more people, and I don't want to lose anybody. We need to, let's give them a little bit more money so they might, want to stay here a little longer. And I think some of them are underpaid. This is one of them. I think she's underpaid.
I think that on this proposal, the middle one, I think is a really great place to start. We've identified the positions that have the disparity, and we want to sort of do the reset like what Rick was saying. I think that's a good way to start.
I think I agree with that. I also think when we're talking about the cost of living has increased. dramatically, and looking at some of the base wages.
You know, I think if you gave them like half, and he said something about we get another pay increase in May. So what he said, what,
That's why I said that, because, you know, I get, well,
so it's the first.
I'm all like $35. I get the first one, that's 10 times 3%. What is that? That's the $2. And you can go up to 325, that's almost, I mean, over 6%,
Well,
maybe more. So to get to take a max, a minimum and max, and just say, okay, we're going to throw that figure out there. I can't grasp on that. To me, I gotta look at, we give them a 3% in first year, and maybe we was low, maybe we should have given them 6%. So maybe we should, and I don't know what the money wise is, you know, because not only do we give them a salary increase, then you gotta go the pension, then you gotta go to the insurance, you know, you're adding everything else up in there. Then we gotta look at.
Well, the insurance won't go
Well, no,
up.
the insurance won't.
The only thing,
But if we, other, you know, I mean, worker comp will go out, and, you know,
well,
so that's based on.
a little bit, yeah.
So, you know,
And just to add to this chart, if we go through with this, that means the police officers that get shot at become the lowest paid employees in the village. And
then we gotta look at this side. So I think we should really study this before we just jump at it.
Sugar Grove, the village of Sugar Grove is hiring an officer at $25 an hour.
well, that's the reason I sent it out early, Chuck, is so that you guys can.
Yeah, yeah, that's
I think it's a good
that's
start.
$10,000 more than our officers get a year.
Now that I know what you were doing, I think we need to go on. I have to go back and fix
I'm sorry, what?
a couple of the lines.
Okay.
Because now that I know what you were, yeah, I might redo a couple of them.
Okay. And should he add the police officers to this?
He's not listed in there.
That's what you need to do.
It should be all the employees.
I've actually seen remarks on social media about the mower being paid more. Wow.
And I mean, we just got them to what, 20 an hour when I started,
This year.
it was, yeah, just got them 20 an hour with the SRO contract, we bumped everybody up. But it was below $10 an hour 8 years ago.
And this isn't anything to do with the cost of living or the percentages or whatever. This is, let's bump them. And then at the end of December, you'll give them whatever the cost of living is at that time. Shoot, it might be 8 or 9 by then, who knows?
But, and I guess while we're at it, so we got service workers, office workers, police officers.
It's cheaper included in that.
I mean, if we're going to do it, should we look at for everybody? I mean, should we include the
You want me to
pool
include?
managers and
If
stuff?
you wanna,
Because we have problems getting
either give it to me and I'll
lifeguards.
do it, or you can do it, whatever you.
Well, I can
Well,
work
the
on
reason
it.
we look at the disparities, because we look at one thing at a time instead of the whole picture. So
Exactly.
We have to look at the whole picture.
Well,
So
that's, yeah.
Okay, so the one spreadsheet, I think now that I know
Okay.
what
And then
you're,
fix Missy. Okay.
I'll fix Missy. And
I
then,
thought she was getting 14 an hour.
huh?
I thought she was getting $14 an
No.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. If you're gonna do that. for
But
me.
you want the whole picture. What does the whole, what do you,
I guess we'd be looking at all the salaries. Because now if there's police in there, I don't know who you'd be leaving out of, maybe pool, which is only part-time seasonal, so.
Right.
I don't know if that one's necessary.
yeah, that one's won't be necessary.
I would say all
hourly people.
full-time employees.
All full-time, part-time, regular,
Part-time, they're always switching out anyway.
Right.
Some are part-time because they're in college.
all non-part-time seasonal.
I don't think the pool needs to be adjusted.
No, I don't. So then we can just look at this and add the police.
Okay, include,
You somewhere on some paperwork I saw that council is on hold until December 31st of this year. So you might want to
Council can
on that.
by law, elected officials' salaries can only change at the beginning of the new term. They can't change.
That,
And I think, don't we have an ordinance where it
that's,
automatically?
that's where,
so-
well, if you look at the pay scale.
Yeah, it automatically
It all-
increases X% every election cycle, so.
But that ends this year.
That ends
Starts,
this year.
it starts next year.
Okay, I don't.
Didn't we?
That's what that,
freeze on
that's what that note, that was my note, is when I do budgeting, I gotta plunk in. The two council members up for a raise next year will be Chuck,
You two, right?
you two, Chuck and Brick, and the mayor. Then 2 years,
Okay.
and then 2 years later, you four.
I mean, why isn't it 2, 2, and 2? Why, how did it become 4 and 2?
Well, that,
To the other
Well,
four.
we had a fiscal officer too.
Fiscal officer used to run with mayor and 2 council members,
Gotcha. All right.
and so you would have.
Okay,
4 and
so do we want to table this until the next rules committee meeting?
That's a month away. Should we really let it simmer for a month? Is there a way to discuss it in service? or
we could
something?
discuss, that could be a service.
It's service related, it's safety related. I think the discussion can cross all
Okay.
those different.
I'm saying I won't be here for that meeting.
But we don't have an ordinance yet, so.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't matter if I'm here or not.
So we can put it on. I guess at the next meeting, you could put it on both because service could then talk about service employees side of it. And safety can talk about the police side of it.
There it is.
And then go to council, and then 2 weeks later, it's back to rules, because rules is the
And then
one in
we should
charge of
have
the
some
pay
kind of
scale.
decision then.
Yeah,
So you want me to update this with everybody,
Adding
Right.
everyone.
adding everyone? And you saying the whole picture? So,
Everyone, whole picture.
well, okay, so you want me to, basically what you want me to do is I need to also do this one
Right.
to see what the total, how it's gonna, how
Yeah.
it's gonna play.
How it's going to affect the budget, yeah.
That's an important.
And I mean, even if you got it with formulas, that's easy and great. Or if you just do the salary maxes plus the, what's everybody doing these days? 27.5% add-on for fringe benefits or something like that to typically cover your retirement and healthcare.
Well, that's,
And that gives you the ballpark.
well, it's gonna give me the, well, when I said do that, it's gonna include PRS and Medicare costs. Everything else is covered for the rest. It's not gonna, that's not gonna change the rest of the year. Those numbers are,
Right.
those numbers are set. They don't change. Health insurance and insurance rates start January 1.
So hers is just the 14% employer pickup.
Yeah.
Health insurance is based on rate.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can get this done if they can start maybe July 1st is a new pay. That's half a year.
Well, you're talking next meeting,
Sure.
service and safety. Well, no, because it'd be the end of May. And then it would come to rules again for the first meeting in June. If council, you would have to pass it bypassing 3 readings and do it as an emergency to get it by July 1. But you could realistically still have the 3 readings and have it start August 1, a month out late, not that much of a difference. That way there's plenty of time
Think about it.
while the ordinance is pending.
Got it. All right.
But that's council's decision. How you want to do that. Can you hit July 1? Yes. But you got a lot of work to do.
Okay.
But as of right now, the shortfall is the one line in the budget, but right now we can take care of that by just reallocating some money. I don't need to do that right now. I'm monitoring it, but there will be some legislation coming down to reallocate that.
I have something else to bring up. We talked about electronic time clocks. And somebody wanted me to bring it up at the rules meeting. What's that all about?
Oh, that was just from the monitoring. We brought it up last year. And then it came up again. I mean, everyone fills out a paper timesheet.
Is everybody still okay with that?
I mean,
The problem is it works until it doesn't. And we had accountability issues with an employee that recently left.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And so,
Oh, gotcha.
and so, again, it works until it doesn't, and we don't know if it worked in this case or not because of our disparate work locations. So if we had a centralized, and when I say centralized, I don't mean everybody has to come to one place to clock in. I mean a centralized system that whether you swipe a badge or enter a code, and of course there are ways around that. Someone gets someone else's code and stuff like that. But at least then we have an indicator of when someone is actually, someone is punching in and punching out, so that we have.
So things are working okay right now.
Better than,
I mean, all the phones belong to us, right? Don't they all have a village phone?
they all have a village phone, but some of them don't want to carry two phones, so the numbers get forwarded to their private phone, so they only carry one.
Because I mean, there's apps that do that, that also use geo.
To track. And
Yeah, I mean, so there's, and the solution for this exists.
that also works until the phone, because you're on call 24 hours a day, is in your personal vehicle, and you come in here to eat at Pepitos, and it looks like you're in at work.
Like, the water plant has a computer terminal on home.
Everybody has got a computer or access to a computer or a tablet. There are lots of different options out there.
The question came up with the location.
I just know that if there was ever a court case and you tell them we have no records, they're gonna call you a liar.
Exactly.
It's happened to me.
And the thing is we have the records, but the records are, the employee says at the end of the week, I think I came in at 7:30 on Monday and I left for lunch at 11:15 and I came back at 1, and those are our records, and that's the issue.
And council's responsible for making sure we get what we pay for, and we're not doing a very good job of it.
So out of curiosity, for safety reasons, do we have cameras on site at the water plant? And
We used to have cameras at the water plant. They are, not functioning, defunct at this
I think,
However, based on an incident Brian's gonna tell us about in council, the idea of cameras for all of those buildings is resurfaced.
good idea.
I remember Tim Little, they had a PO outstanding with Advanced Business Computer, Mike Burke, ABC, yes. For, I believe it was for, cameras out the two plants. When we made a down payment that PO was issued last year. Made a down payment on it, and I still have it open. So I don't know if the equipment hasn't come in yet. That was a question I was gonna ask Mike, when he comes in this week. Is it tomorrow?
No.
Wednesday.
I mean, I just think that goes along with the accountability.
The cameras have multiple benefits, and, to Rick's point, we need the records and we don't do a good job of keeping them. And I think Terry brought it up pre-COVID, maybe we talked about this.
I remember talking about
The problem is, the problem, and I think the problem we had was what we had was working until it doesn't. And so we had other cost things we wanted to spend instead of spending.
Didn't we buy 3 mechanical clocks?
I'm sorry, what?
Didn't we buy 3 mechanical clocks?
Yeah, they're all,
They're not stolen,
yeah.
and that's what we're using now.
The punch clock.
All right,
That's an improvement because we're not doing that part of that.
Yeah, it's an improvement. We've moved up to 1960s technology. So I mean, do we want Brian to investigate? Both Brians to investigate some time clock options that badge type in other than punch card? Maybe give us a little
We-
more
we just-
accountability?
We just spent like $1,200 on those clocks last year. I mean, they're not cheap.
And at the time we discussed it, I never intended to buy 1960s time clocks. I was thinking more of an electronic app that would also automatically give you a report of whether they were working water, sewer, street. It's all right there in that app, and you just go to the.
Oh, I see what you're
website,
saying.
It's all there, simplified. And why we got stuck in the 1960s, I don't know. But so I wouldn't have agreed to spend $1,200 on time clocks. It was never what I suggested.
That's what, oh, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that's what we,
Brian, I mean, he's gonna,
yeah, I mean, that's a good
Yeah, you're
question.
the one that has to deal with it.
You two
It
have
ought
to
be
deal
much
with it.
simpler, not harder.
village administrator and whatever,
Yeah.
what works for you guys? I mean,
I think you're talking about two different issues, and one of them we're going to talk about, but the
oh,
cameras.
okay.
Cameras are definitely something that are useful in monitoring what happens at your facilities. And not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily help with who's there when
Right,
and those kinds of things. But however, there are a lot of apps. There's a lot of technology out there where you can determine who is where, and therefore you know what they're doing, hopefully.
I guess a good question for Brian B is, does UAN accept any sort of time clock, time
No.
sheet imports?
No, I mean, we'd have to, I mean, basically on that particular end, they would still have to do the manual timesheets
Right.
to turn into me.
And that's probably the
Well,
state's running about a day
well,
behind too.
They might not have to do them. If it was an automated thing, a report would be generated.
A report would
It
be
The
generated.
same thing, but you would still have to
I
enter it. There's
was,
not a-
yes.
Because if UAN had something that imported, that would be an
and
easy
maybe if we
solution.
were lucky, we could sell those 1960 type ones.
I think they were 1,200 a piece last
I personally like experimented with an app called ATTO, ATO, and it seemed pretty functional. There's probably a dozen of them out there. So when I see the functionality of that app, it's like, why wouldn't we be using something like
And
that?
if we do something like that, maybe we would have to require though that they use the phone that's owned by the village. I mean, like it or not. They may have to use
Me, I wouldn't want to use my personal device at that point.
But I think maybe that's something we would have to have a
There's Addo,
discussion.
there's Chronos.
Yeah,
there's, yeah,
No, we took care of the time, but I think $1,200, I think it was $1,200 a piece, the three that we bought.
Because we made a mistake, let's make another mistake.
Mike, how did your people sign in? They sign in, clock in? How do you?
We, on a daily, we have a computer screen, whatever you want to call it down there, and they open that up and then they're on the hours, whatever they put the hours into that, and
They
then
work pretty good.
we've never
Well,
had an issue with it.
They're entering their time just like everyone else.
Yeah, and I was just asking how.
But at the end of the day, you can give us a report as to who was working on it.
Yep, can I throw one thing out here real quick, because I experienced this and just something, and I get what you guys are saying, and I think it's probably a great idea, but you gotta walk carefully, because Westerville in 1992 decided that they were gonna put the police and fire on time clocks. And what happened is the overtime went up about 60-some%, because it captures everything. So a guy would come in and he's got a report he's working on. Guys, if you're in there 15, 20 minutes, nobody. They'll say it's firehouse. Nobody. Yeah, you just did your 8 hours and went home. Well, Fair Labor Standards Act says there's no such thing as you've got to pay it. So that's one thing you got to keep aware of, is we're going to have to do two things. As department heads, we're going to have to be very disciplined that, overtime has to be pre-approved, or sometimes it can't be. But overtime's got to be pre-approved, and we're going to have to be very aware of where we are budgetarily, because it bit them hard. One day I'll tell you guys a really funny story about what happened to those time clocks. So that's
Well, and that's one thing that we'll have to watch for, and it could happen. On the other hand, if we have an employee doing work, they should be compensated for that time.
Yeah, that's what gets you in the lawsuit though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, so, yeah, so I get okay, I'm here 15 minutes, I'm not gonna count that. On the other hand, no, I don't want you working for free. I want you to be compensated for the time you are here. And so it might cause some policy changes and how some things get done here and there to make sure that we don't have overtime, but I'm not a fan of the idea of, well, that's only gonna take me 10 minutes to do, so I'm not gonna count that as my time. No, if the employee's here doing it, they should be paid.
Yeah, well, obviously, you had to clock in. It didn't just pick up your geolocation and clock that in. So it wasn't like it happened out.
Okay.
Well, I also remember when Terry, when somebody worked over 15 or half hour, an hour, maybe the next day they want to leave early. And see, flexible time.
And there's nothing that would prevent that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it would give us better accounting for it too, as opposed to the employee maybe saying, well, I only put 8 hours, but I was here for 8.5. And Terry says, yeah, I know you're here 8.5. So tomorrow they put 8 hours on, but they were only here for 7.5 hours. And those are the discrepancies that we want to avoid. If someone works a half hour over yesterday and wants to leave a half hour today, okay. By the end of the week, they're at 40 hours, they're not getting any overtime, that's fine. But we shouldn't, not having the records and having people work and not being compensated are great ways to get in trouble with the Department of Labor.
Okay, anything else on that subject? My last subject is the audio, and we talked about it before. The audio that we cannot hear, and we're getting complaints from the public about not being able to hear. So ABC guys coming in.
What I mentioned is from time to time, and sometimes I can hear it, and
Right.
sometimes I can't. And these are wireless, so when Mike from ABC is in, if he could spend some time testing and maybe fine tuning the wireless receivers, because they're wireless, so we're talking 60s technology. We moved outside of the village. We need to adjust our FM dial just a bit to pick up the station, and see if that works. And then if not, maybe we should look at moving some of these wireless ones back to a wired, because then we have the consistent connection. We know we have the connection. We just have to swap these modules out. But I think the first step would be if he's in, if he spends some time trying to fine tune frequencies. Some of them might just be the gain and different sound adjustments.
When also you talk about that, I know when I was in Florida, I hear people talking about I couldn't see them. So you might want to move the camera somehow too. And it's hard when someone's YouTubing, it's hard to understand what's going on.
We had, during COVID, we had lots of discussions about the camera because the ideal location for it is in that back corner, but the pole that we can't remove blocks a lot of it. So our next best choices were this corner, which was going to have some wiring problems out there on the outside or something like that, that would pick up most of this and that, or right there where you get everybody except those two seats.
And I like my spot behind the pole.
I'm just saying, when I hear people talking, when I was on the, it was hard enough. But if you see that person talking, you know that, who we're talking and what's going on. So just hearing something, different.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out.
I know that.
Because we put it up there temporarily, and the ideal spot is back there, but the pole blocks.
And anyway, you do have everybody in a row, but this room ain't big enough.
Right.
Yeah, it's just.
We tried a different lens at a different location.
That camera has multiple lenses. You can adjust it. You can zoom it in, zoom it out. You can apply it. Yeah. And it rotates and tilts and stuff like that. Where you can move it all around. It just, the other location that we talked about was a little bit further back on that wall. but they told me I wasn't allowed to take the, emergency exit sign down.
So what about that corner? Does the video screen have to be in there? Because then you would also get the guests.
No, the video screen doesn't have to be in that corner. The problem was mounting it on that corner or around everything. And getting it because of where it has to mount and the height of the camera.
We talked to Mike about both these things on Wednesday.
Okay, any other?
Mine's coming in, so yeah, see if there's, now that it's in, if there's any better ideas.
Just get someone live to stand there with a camera.
We've been in new business, baby.
Yeah.
I wanted to discuss, the 4-year degree requirement of the police chief and chief and deputy chief. I'm wondering if in lieu of a decade of experience, if that would really be necessary to try to open the pool of people that we can look at for that.
That's not a police thing, that's.
Thinking that was a rule that we had, that we would only hire with a 4-year degree.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a rule or if it's one of those
most places.
job requirements that we put out there. It is in most instances, the practice these days of most departments to require some form of. There are some departments that won't hire officers without a 4-year degree.
I guess in lieu of a large amount of demonstrable experience, I can't imagine what a 4-year degree would add to that. And the chief has mentioned that it's tough to find people and there aren't many people out there and it's expensive.
There's definitely a trend for dropping that requirement for many positions, not just police, but across the board to, for jobs that it just doesn't need it.
Yeah, it would be like us, me and Robin being required to have a business management degree at this point in our career seems somewhat ludicrous. And so I wonder if there are some of those opportunities in the police field as well.
That actually came from Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police. When I came here, that was a requirement, and it's been a requirement ever since. There are some departments, I don't know of any legitimate department that doesn't require some sort of advanced training. I don't know that. Is it possible you can do if you fills up this line, do we need to fill up that line kind of thing? So you have somebody that has 10 years at a command staff level or something like that. Maybe they only have an associate's degree. What does that 10 years count towards eliminating the 4-year? Or if they have Police Executive Leadership College, does that eliminate? The Police Executive Leadership College is actually master's degree level work. So if you complete that, would that be in lieu of having to have a 4-year degree?
Health the one done by FBI.
I'm sorry.
Is Health the one done by FBI?
So much.
OACP and so is PLE.
And PLE, Certified Law Enforcement Executive.
National Academy is what
Here's the other thing with that, is one reason a lot of them are going to that, with the, for example, that what is it called, that law enforcement consortium collaboration that the governor started. There's been a push on probably now for 20 years, and it's just starting to really pick up momentum because there's been a lot of flash going around law enforcement to professionalize, as the firm they like to call it. The theory with a lot of people I hear is you have to have a degree to be a teacher. You got to have a degree to be a nurse. Why wouldn't you have to have a degree to be a police officer? But they want it to be like a minimum of an associate's degree to even enter the field. And that is going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. For small agencies in particular, it's going to be tough. Bigger agencies will pay you to go to school. When I got my degrees, Westville paid 100% for them. So for what Rick's saying, I don't disagree with what he's saying as far as if you've got somebody walks in the door and they've got a bucket full of credentials, it kind of makes sense that you could trade this for that. But I think you have to have a clearly defined, what are we trading this for that?
So is that one of those things where on a job posting, when it comes up, says, you know, 4-year degree or equivalent experience, and then the hiring committee can determine what is that equivalent experience? You know, does, 3 years as a lieutenant in Columbus equal 15 years as a chief at a smaller agency, or, how does that work? But then your hiring committee can figure it out. But I guess to get to Rick's point, it's not in our rules, that's just the requirements based on the Ohio Association Chiefs of Police that we followed in the past.
Chuck probably remembers this, the council paid a guy out of Cincinnati to come in and do a study of the police department.
Yeah, well, I don't know that big.
My God, it's been 18 years ago.
It was a year before you were hired.
It was.
I know it was.
And in that study, that was one of the things that this guy brought up, was that, you need to raise the standard of who you're going to have as a chief. And that's where that came from. So they use the OACP standard at that time. That's what it was, Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police. That was their standard. And that was my understanding. That's how that got into the report, which went to them, which then went on the job thing. And that is a part. If you read our rules and regulations under our job description section, that's what it says in the job description. What actually says that for chief or deputy chief.
So if council wanted to change that to be college degree or equivalent experience, we do need a rule change. We do need an ordinance rules. to
I
change
would
that.
say so.
So, would that mean I would make a motion to, for the council, to make a rule change on the requirements of the police chief that potentially have 4-year degree or equivalent experience?
Sounds like a motion of Jeff draft legislation to make that change. You walked in just in time.
Okay,
And then I would need a second, and then that would be a first reading in council.
Well, it won't be a first reading. I'll have to.
I would need a second out here though.
okay.
Second out of here.
Could you read-
For next council meeting, it would be on for a first, yeah.
Could you repeat could you repeat your motion?
That council accept an applicant for police chief, which would then in turn also be deputy police chief, that would accept job experience in lieu of a 4-year degree.
In lieu of?
It would be,
The equivalent. I thought you said the equivalent.
Well, I think that we say in lieu of, meaning,
You won't have to have a 4-year degree to get 10 relevant years.
this
Okay.
is getting Jeff to write the ordinance that'll say we can accept either or.
Right.
I think we had a first and a second from Schaffner.
As a-
Yeah.
and we need a roll call?
Okay. Foreman,
Yes.
Schaffner,
Yes.
Reedy.
I'm good.
Good. Anybody else have anything else for new business? No. All right, next meeting will be June 12th, the second Monday in June at 6:45. Immediately following. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second. One second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we got about 8 minutes to council.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what day did you fill out the council? Friday. Friday. Actually.
Did everyone sign, sign in or re-sign in?
There was probably the same number that thought, man, it doesn't sound bad, sounds a good idea.
Women's back here.
Everybody else.
No, women's over there, back down that hallway.
So the vast majority.
Into the hall.
And I get it. They don't know.
I think someone's in there. I think Darla's in there.
And, but no, it was not The one guy that was very vocal.
Where's my mouth?
Always.
He actually had I mean, he said, he asked Carl to do it. He said, "What's all?"
Well,
So he knew he was gonna ask.
I talked to him after the meeting and said, "Now, I noticed that you're very vocal. I understand what you're saying, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that a finished product would be the same thing as what they have in the hospital. But I said, I think, you know, at least, you know, yeah, he's really good speaking. Very calm.
Be a best benefit if I have already sent Brandon another. To send some proposal.
Get through? Yeah. 'Cause that was, one of the guys there is named Monty Law. And Monty's in really good shape at the time, so I sits back and says a lot. Monty does from desktop, good stuff. And, that was a question Monty brought up. He said, you know, it's easy to say, well, we have this group, this nonpartisan group, and it includes quite a few conservatives. But he said, to me, quite a few is nobody I've ever met. I want to know a name. Tell me who it is. And then that way I can check the records, see where they're at, what they're doing.
Because I asked him, and I was messaging him, I found the articles that are written by conservatives saying, you know, this is not. You should be scared of the next two conservatives. I mean, I've got.
If you want to give me a minute, I'll.
I don't care what you say, man.
But no, it was, I think the vast majority were more, they had more questions than they did. And again, a lot of it was, we'd like to know who these people are, you know, so we can.
I was really upset later because, he forgot to say, you know, we should go to the website. I think it's 100%.
Is that right?
Yeah, I heard that. Wednesday. Huh? Probably not.
She's gonna be in my back. I told him that I saw.
Well, probably not.
No. And he said, well, I saw someone doing a presentation.
Well, before I close it. So.
It's just, I think some people are like, oh, that.
I can't bring it back over. For some
You
reason.
know, and that's like with anything else.
So you were taking, which column were you taking?
Well, I think email.
Half.
Did you check your email?
You remember?
City Hall.
I believe I did the hourly.
The current,
Okay, so see Tim's over here at the increase, if it's total, if you get the total,
What I'll do is I'll send
it's
an
650.
email. And then I'll.
And I did that, but
that's the max. Oh, so you get half.
Sure.
so it's half of that.
Got it. Now I know what you did.
I can do that.
Cause I gotta fix a couple.
I'm not responsible for that. He takes me pretty sound.
We'll make an airplane out of it.
I wasn't really, supposed to be at the last minute to go. We got the good
Well, you seem to interpret it just right from the right person, didn't you?
This is ridiculous on that.
And you need to take her over.
I'll send a couple to you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I know how.
What did I just do?
Good, you? Good.
Busy Monday.
Oh, it has been. Crazy day all day long.
Yeah. But. I don't know, kind of typical.
And I live on police.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather, great turnout.
Excellent. So, Hannah said she saw you.
Yeah, they had kind of died.
She was in there talking to Alex.
And 19, it really got bad. And then in 20.
She said, I hope nobody asks me.
So I brought it back for last year. And it wasn't bad.
That is my job.
Did you work? Oh, you succeeded. She was trying to get away with it. Everybody noticed.
We did it for a while. I don't know if I know.
When was that?
That was,
I haven't been.
Yeah.
Give her a hug. I'm like, engagement just a little.
I know what you're talking about.
But that's part of it. So.
yeah, it was really good.
Everybody looked really good.
Mary.
Chestnut.
Oh. Yeah, she got me.
Hey, Mary, you got 2 sets of minutes. You didn't sign it.
Where is she now?
I think she's right now. There's going 3 more places.
Well, then I guess I should do that.
Everybody who wants to speak. Everybody who wants to speak.
You got us recording? All right. All right, so we will call this May 8th, 2023 council meeting to order at 7:31.
Hallowed thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Osgray.
Present.
Foreman.
Present.
Keller.
Present.
McCreary.
Present.
Reedy.
Present.
Schaffner.
All right, everyone's here, cool. First is the approval of the minutes of April 24th.
Foreman makes a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Read the second.
All right, discussion. Hearing none.
Foreman.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
Osgray.
Yes.
All right, next will be approved as written. Next is the agenda, and I think we only have any first readings. We've got 3 ordinances on for second reading. So I don't think we have any amendments. So at least I'm not aware of any, so.
Okay, Keller moves, that we approve the agenda as,
McCreary seconds.
Discussion, roll call.
Keller.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Osgray.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
All right, we have an agenda.
First is visitors, we've got a couple visitors here. Did everybody sign in?
Not everyone signed in, but everyone who wanted to speak signed in.
Yeah, for council, if you
Yeah.
would please. And then I'll come grab that. right. And we will just go in order. Robin said no, so.
I'm Pam Hosher. I live at 1008 West Kenya Street, but I have a house at 313 North Basel Street. And I have an issue with the alley. You guys may think it's been abandoned, but it hasn't because it's blacktop. There's a sewer system running through it. And I have a neighbor that is parking his truck, blocking my easement to the back part of my property. That's why I'm here. See if we can get this taken care of because I'd like to be able to use my easement.
We brought this up. And looking at, do you have an update?
Can I have her point out on this where she's talking about, so everybody knows?
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind, just indicate on here where it is.
Here's the house. This is the property. There's a fence line back here. This is my building. I have a 12-foot easement here. He's parking his truck here. I want to be able to go back through here to get over to Jennifer's house if I want to. Or I want to be able to get in my backyard without having to go through my grass. The easement should be right here.
So there's an easement, you say?
12-foot easement, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now, this is all grass up here. I do have pictures. I don't know why there's grass up there because it's part of the alley.
Okay. This
There's
is the alley you're talking about.
yes, there's a guardrail here, which shouldn't be there because there's gravel to get out to the main street out here.
Okay. There's a guardrail there.
Yes, but I don't care about that. I'm just concerned about
yeah.
my easement.
This
I don't
helps
care if
us
it goes all the way up to Todd Mann's house or not. I just want to be able to get to my
understand
easement.
what it does. It helps us orient it. So we know
Yes.
exactly where it is.
That's fine.
So that alley, and this is the area we're talking about back
Yes.
here.
And there is a
And it
manhole.
continues here. Is that what you're talking about?
This is the next property. This is the
Okay.
easement so they can get back to their property and back to Tim Benjamin's property as well.
Okay. All right,
So
thank you.
This came up a couple of months ago too, a zoning thing. The problem, I just checked, it's not ringing a bell with Jeff on whether or not that alley has been abandoned, so it's still an alley. But it doesn't go all the way through, but it's still an alley, and then there's someone parking in there, which we can't have people parking in and out.
And he's doing damage with his heavy truck. It's damaging the alley bad.
And I believe they did send a letter and it got better for about a month, and now it's back to being used because.
He doesn't have any place to park his vehicles.
So. Chief.
He does have a garage, right?
No.
It's too small.
No, he doesn't have a garage. He has a fenced in area so he can have his chickens in the backyard.
Maybe I've got the wrong house.
I have the garage. The garage is mine.
Okay, so you have a house that's Crystal Store.
No, Crystal Stillwell is the one we're complaining about. My house is next to it.
That's what I thought. May have a, underneath the house.
They have a garage down in there, yeah, but they can't park a vehicle in it.
Okay.
And the truck he's parking in the alley is a big service truck.
Well, right now he's parking his service truck down by his house and parking his pickup truck up in the easement. Because again, he saw me taking pictures because his truck, no matter where he pulls it in that alley, he is destroying the blacktop in the alley.
So Chief's looking at it. Or I want to stare at him until he gives us some thoughts.
I get to give the approval.
So
Where does he live at?
this is Voucher's house. This
So
is my house.
he lives here?
He lives here. There's the garage where he can park down into.
Okay.
He can get his other vehicles that he parks here, down here to clean up this area. But it's still when he parks his service vehicle, that belongs to them.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
So they can park up there, but it's not strong enough to handle his heavy equipment truck.
Okay.
And when he parks his heavy equipment truck there, it sticks out to where this guy can't get in and out of his alley because he's blind. And the old people that come and pick him up is afraid to hit his truck, so they don't come up here. So he comes out and then he falls down. So I have issues.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And I have another question. So if my memory serves me right, there's no parking on this side of the street. Supposedly.
Right, and then working alongside that street until you get back toward Tim Benjamin's house, then you can park Franklin's house. I mean, he put in a real nice fence in his backyard, and if he was smart enough, he would figure out how to get his truck in his backyard. Now, we was nice and told him he could park over by our shed. We got gravel out there because we used to have heavy equipment back there. He doesn't want to do that. He'd rather just pull in there and just tear up the blacktop. I was a nice neighbor. Now I'm not. This is the way it is. I mean, if he wants to park his vehicle there, if you guys want to allow it, well, that'd be great because I've got 3 vehicles. I'd love to have parked up there too.
Well, and what I'll tell you is what I told someone at the last meeting about parking down the road. I don't want to get petty and then for a tit for tat because that doesn't solve the situation.
But I went over there, to take pictures, so we would have it.
Right.
They called him a stalker because he's ever on his property taking pictures of his property. The neighbors actually thought they called him a stalker. Yeah, so I have issues with this neighbor.
Chief, any thoughts off the top of your head right now? I mean, because obviously it's an alley and it's not vacated. It can't, even if
You can't block it.
you can't block it, even if it's not full throughout.
And Jeff, we know this is an open alley.
But I don't see it in our table of ordinances.
The reason I bring that up
It's a
is
vacated alley.
up here at the end of that alley, we had probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we had a complaint about somebody parking it. Did you own that when they parked the Jeep up there? Did you guys own that? I don't know.
If it was 10 years ago, then yes.
Okay, well, somebody parked a Jeep up there or whatever. And at that time, the general consensus is that alley had been abandoned, but apparently it's not. If it's not, you can't park there, you can't block.
And if it's abandoned, then half of the alley goes to them and the other half goes to me. Where it screws them because they don't have any room to go up the alley on their property to get up to their backyard. I have plenty of room on mine. And again, I'm not going to be nice. So he can figure out where he can park his 3 vehicles there. So if you want to abandon it, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Because I'll be nice to let Jennifer Fuller and Joe, and I'll be nice to let Tim Benjamin be more than happy to let them use my driveway to get up behind the house. But him and her, nope, they can walk.
What would council like us to do? I mean, I can send them a letter from the police department with a section that says effective this date cannot park in this manner.
I have one follow-up because we talked about that alley being blocked. It used to curve around, did it not?
Right, at one time, and you can see on the paperwork, there wasn't out of there, but they got a guardrail up there now. Don't know why. And again, why did they let the grass grow at the end of the alley all the way up to the main high street? Because that alley was straight through. But as you can see now, there's grass on the back. There's a boat stop back there. There's a trailer back there. There's a fence around the manhole up there at the end of the road. So apparently half of that alley was abandoned by you guys. But the blacktop part still there.
So be careful using the word abandoned. The alley became less frequently used.
Okay. And that's why there's grass on it.
Yes, because we don't, on street maintenance, alleys are at the very bottom of the list.
But again, the manhole's there for the sewage line runs all the way down the alley.
I guess my next question for Chief and Village Administrator is, do we potentially solve this problem by regrading that alleyway so that it is once again open all the way through? And so that it no longer looks like a parking area.
I think you need to totally make sure that it wasn't abandoned at some.
And this is why I wanted to put this on service about the hours, because when I was running for council, that was something that came up to me multiple times about alleys And I have a similar issue right beside my house as well. If there's some kind of discrepancy as to who thinks it's abandoned or whether it's, never was an alley.
And as I said, we have some alleys that weren't actually alleys, that people just laid gravel to get to their backyard, and all of a sudden it became an alley. Yeah. But that's a separate issue. So to help her with hers, I mean, they've had a letter though from the village. So, I mean, they're on notice.
Is it a letter such as like your violation? I mean, I guess the only thing, I mean, I can do whatever you guys want. I mean, I can go over there and personally talk to them, advise them if the parts are there in a manner of blocking the alley that will cite it. That it is, it is a citation that we can issue. I mean, I'm pretty much open to anything on it. My only question has always been because after dealing with that Jeep thing and being told that it was a closed alley, that was the reason I was kind of wanting to make sure I could see what this was.
Partially closed. I know the one by my house is half closed.
Oh, the one that goes down
My
the
neighbor is closed. The rest of it is very active. So it's possible that a certain portion of the alley got abandoned and some other portion didn't. I don't know. We'd have to check the record. I know what happened in my case. I don't know what happened in that case.
But yeah, the only thing I'm asking for is access to the easement where I don't have to go knocking on his door when he's at work trying to get him to move his vehicle. Because he works during the day.
I mean, there are sewers in easements and they're not out.
Well, hers is a private easement between two parcel owners. And we talked about that where we got to be careful. We can't enforce your easement.
Right.
But if the alley is open through there, it needs to be open and that we can enforce. So
we just make sure we know what we're talking about and enforce it.
So Jeff will confirm that the alley hasn't been closed.
Okay.
And then as soon as he confirms that, then she can go knock on the door and say, if you're parking back there, it's a citation and or tow. I mean, it's blocking a roadway.
Okay, and then 3 weeks from now, when I go by and I see a vehicle parked up there and I take a picture and I bring it to Chief Tessie, what's going to be done?
Well, nothing. And I'll tell you why, because it's a minor misdemeanor and we have to view it. You need to call the police department like as soon as you see it so that we can go up there and take enforcement action on it. So I know that sounds silly, but that's.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, I'm going to be blowing up your phone. That's all I'm saying.
You know what? I believe you have my number.
All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate your help on this.
All right. Next is Maria. Okay. So Don and Philip both said yes.
Yeah, I'll talk first because mine's real simple. Hey, everybody, I'm Don McLean. I'm at 207 West Market. I'm right next to the cafe. Really, the only thing I have an issue with is the non-issue. We've lived in the house since 2007. There have been multiple businesses in the location. And I understand they're doing Meals on Wheels. But if that's the case, make the 2 spots handicapped. There's no need for 1 hour. That just makes it less spots for people who need to be closer. Does that make sense? That's my only issue, is that there's not an issue.
So you're talking about 2 spots in front of the business?
No,
2 spots
closest to the door, the side and the back.
One in the front, one on the side.
2 handicap spots. I mean, if they're worried about people with walkers getting in, then, I mean,
Those are 2 places.
those are the 2 places. Putting a 1 hour spot in those 3 locations, it's just gonna make less spots available for people who want to go in for longer than an hour.
We had to move our handicap spot on the street because it wasn't a legal handicap spot. So I'm not sure either of those can be made into legal handicap spots.
I mean, my mom and my aunt, they visit frequently, and both of them are handicapped. And they like to park out in front. So if those spots, even 2 of those spots are 1 hour, you have people who are like, oh, we're gonna be there longer an hour, park down. It's gonna take, I mean, it's gonna be a trickle effect. That's unnecessary. Like, yes, we have parking in the back of our house, and we park back there.
but we had many visitors that come over. When I unload my groceries, I like to park out front. And even now, like, I haven't had any issues. Like, there's always spots open on the other side of the street, in front of them. The only issue we had was the orange truck that was every day 8 hours in front of our house. I come home from the grocery store and I couldn't park there because the orange truck was there, and it was ridiculous. But that seems to be taken care of, so. That is it. That is it. Thanks.
Almost in the same house. What she said is right. You know, we do like to park in those same spots that everybody else seems to want. I mean, they're in front of our house. I know we don't own them, but we do like to use them for more than an hour at a time. You know, recently the orange truck that was said has been moved, and that pretty much solved the problem. I think over the last couple of weeks, I haven't seen a problem. I still have the video camera in front of the house. If you guys ever need to see the actual photos or videos, I will provide them to you, showing that there's not a spot. But if it is about you know, handicap, obviously we're not against that. You know, like she said, the two closest spots are the ones closest to the corner on both sides of the corner. But no issue with that. They're not in front of my house, so why would I have an issue with that? So other than that, anything else, I think, you know, you're getting into shaky ground on what's being arbitrary and capricious, especially if it's unnecessary. So that's all I really have to say about it.
Can I ask one question? Because I can appreciate having looked at this from the last couple of meetings, and where you said you unload your groceries in front, I see back, and that makes sense. But what was mentioned earlier was, and I guess I should say I can appreciate the trickle back effect. And you said obviously you don't own the spots, but you like to use them. Can you give us a ballpark of, because they're talking Monday through Saturday, 3 a.m. to 2 p.m., your general usage of those spots?
Which spots, sir?
Just the spots in front of your house. I mean, it was 4 spots. We're just trying to figure out what's best.
I mean,
so
my personal usage of our vehicles would be almost none. Like less than 10%, but that's kind of the point, you know. Well, if there is a parking issue, it's not us.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do, because we want to make, what was brought up at the last meeting was, you know, residents' concerns and your concerns tonight with those parking spots in front. But if from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. on those 6 days a week, you're not actively using those spots or needing them for your home, it has a minimal effect on you.
I don't know that though. I mean, you put a 1 hour parking spot in front of my house. I don't know what effect that's going to have. My point is there is no issue.
And we don't know it, but can we also appreciate that the business has an issue or foresees an issue for them?
Their issue is
what evidence was that besides hearsay?
So all I'm trying to figure out is, do you use those spots in front of your house from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.? And if so, how much?
Everybody in the village, or actually everybody in the country, is free to use them right now, and we like that the way it is. But you're taking away everybody's liberty to park there when you're restricting it, at least.
I'm just trying to figure out how often you use it, because the argument
I can give you a number. We've lived there for almost 20 years, and I randomly will park there whenever I go to the grocery store, whenever my mom decides. Yeah, it's just random.
No, I have parked there and left the vehicle there for an extended period of time. I don't think I've broken any laws. What is it, 2 days, Chief? I think.
And the reason I ask is because you said you don't park there a lot, so I'm trying to figure out.
Well, because
the
issue was brought up.
A non-issue, because if you're not parking there, then it doesn't affect you.
We became aware that they might have an issue with the parking when we saw it on Village Council.
I don't want to rehash the past, because we've been there. I'm just trying to gather information.
Okay, so we can trying to figure out how often we unload our groceries on my mom.
So we can make an informed decision.
I mean, okay, yes, we use it between 8 and 2.
For instance, the one guy that lives right next door and has no off-street parking, he parks there every day, all the time. He would have a greater effect by restricting the parking there. What I'm trying to figure out is what effect it has on your place a little bit further down if council changes that parking. some people are affected differently. So all I'm trying to do is
So
figure out.
can I ask you a question? Mr. Wright, why would you take
Why don't you bring that to the table?
a spot that's actually further away than the two closest spots?
I'm not proposing taking a spot that's further away. I'm saying I can appreciate the fact that if you make the first 2 1-hour parking, the argument is it could trickle down because someone that's staying longer would then park in front of your house.
So the first,
let me finish.
2.
So the first 2, which was what was proposed a little bit ago,
Interesting.
1-hour parking. That trickles back, so if someone's staying longer, they're going to park on the further spots back, which is in front of your house, which can affect you. So now I'm trying to figure out
Just have to deal with that.
how often do you guys use those spots so that we can gauge that effect versus the person that lives right next door that doesn't have off-street parking, and it greatly affects, which gets back to the question of, on average, how much do you use those spots Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.? Because if it's, well, we've always got someone there because I have home health aid coming in, that's a greater effect versus I go grocery shopping once a week, maybe twice a week.
But you can say the same
an hour.
for them. They want their parking to be handicapped for that.
So, and that's all I'm trying to figure out is how to gather the information so the council can make a decision. What someone is affected, whether it's the business or homeowners or what, someone is affected, to try to minimize the effects on everybody while maximizing the ability for everybody to use those areas. And so that's all I was getting at with the question.
So the 2 spots, just to clarify, the 2 spots I was referring to was one on the Walnut and one on Market. Those are the 2 closest spots. I believe you're referring to the 2 on Market. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Because the second one back is in front of my house, and I think you're
Second
just
one back's in front of each here. The third one, it starts to get.
the second one is because the first one you can't park there because it's a corner. You can't park within, I think, 20 feet of a corner or something. And then so the first one's kind of in front of their spot.
Well, I'm just trying to get information. So we'll let everybody hear. I'm not going to solve this tonight because you got it in safety. So I'm just trying to gather the information while everybody's.
So my conversations with the client, the reason was not handicap. It wasn't Meals on Wheels. It was there were complaints from their customers that the same cars are always parked in the same spots. And that's true. I did have my van and my son's truck parked in front of the house. So we do use the spots, but when I became aware that it was causing them a problem, I moved them out back. Problem solved. Like I don't see why we're even talking about having an ordinance to change, parking zoning rules.
To be clear, it's parking, not zoning. They're different.
It's the village's policing power, correct?
So.
Okay, so, but then there was, also council seemed to give consideration to the church across the street saying, oh, we don't want to interfere with them. But you're okay interfering with me. That's what I'm hearing.
I didn't say I'm okay interfering with
you.
No.
No.
I'm asking questions to gauge. Everybody is affected by the parking here. Everybody has some level of interference. If you park your car in one of the spots on the street, it affects the business, correct? If someone wants to park there to go to the business, everybody is affected. What the village has to do is try to figure out how to minimize the effect on everybody and the level of discomfort with the parking and where you can and can't and what you can and can't do, while also maximizing the ability for a business to have customers come in and out, but not have a disparate effect on the on-street parking for the residents in a mixed-use area. This is a common problem. So I'm not saying that we're going to impede upon you absolutely to their betterment. All I'm trying to do is gather the information so that when it goes to, because the ordinance is on for a second reading tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandy, there's absolutely no interest in advancing the ordinance as a law tonight, we're going to have discussion and safety again on this. So in 2 weeks in safety, this is going to be discussed based on all of the residents' comments last week, I presume against everybody's tonight, to try to figure out what to do. But while everybody is here, I just want the information, and it's the question. I'm a trial litigator. I ask questions all day long to try to figure out the pinpoint issues. So I could ask you 100 more about it if you want, but I don't think we want to.
And I just wish you would ask about, hey, there's parking spots on the other side of the street that aren't being considered. Why is it so pinpointed at the ones in front of my house? This is my main question.
You're the guy at the podium right now answering my questions.
No, I meant the complaint, not you, but the complaint. Like, it was lodged, I believe. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't at the downtown business meeting. I didn't know that it was open. It didn't appear to be open to the public. So, I didn't go. It was, the website said it was, downtown businesses were invited. It didn't say, a reasonable person is not going to assume that that was open to the public, in my opinion. So I don't know what was lodged, what complaints were lodged. I'm sure, 99% sure that it was a complaint lodged against my vehicle, which has since been moved. A knock on my door would have accomplished the same thing. That's kind of my point. I've moved it. I don't think the ordinance is necessary. I don't want to say anything else about it. So I appreciate your time, and I ask that when it does come up for discussion, you guys consider not proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got it. And you spoke earlier. Brian's got it.
Well, I appreciate everyone's concern about the 1 hour parking. If we were to make those spots solely handicap parking, that's going to cause more of an issue versus a 1 hour parking. If we solely make it a handicap parking space, that only limits it to people with handicaps at all hours of the day. Versus if we have 1 hour parking in 2 spots that do not affect all 4 spots, I'm only asking for 2. That's only for a short period out of the day. Also, the reason I do not want 1 hour parking on the side is because, as I stated earlier, I have customers with walkers and canes, and getting up that sidewalk and the stairs is very difficult for them. I have concrete stairs right there, and it's very hard for them to get up the stairs. And even if you went around the side, it's still having to come up the sidewalk and go around versus being able to just get out of the car straight on the sidewalk, straight into the building. So again, I'm still only asking for 2 1 hour parking spaces on Market Street, and for the lines to be paved on, was it Walnut Street? That's all that I'm asking for. I don't think that that's too much of an imposement to anyone when there's still 2 parking spaces left available. And I understand that there's parking across the street, but that does not help me with my handicap people that are trying to get into the business on this side of the road.
I have a question. And I beg your forgiveness if you've said this and I didn't catch it. So you have 2 spaces you want, they're the 2 in front. You would not be satisfied with the one to the side?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Because it's uphill. That concrete there for the sidewalk is not very good. And I only have concrete stairs for them to be able to come up, and with a walker, it's very hard, or with a cane with somebody who's very unbalanced, it is very hard.
So what happens when them 2 spots, if we don't classify them as handicap, if two cars are sitting there, the handicapped people will probably have to park across the street or on Walton Street. Is that what they do?
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, they either don't come in. I've had several of them tell me that they have not came in because they drove right past.
So
because they can't park right in front because it's difficult for them to get in. I have several customers that, I mean, they came in when they were able to get a spot, but then don't come back for a while because they can't park out front, because they can't make it up that sidewalk. So then the next time they come in, that's what they tell us. I'm sorry, I haven't been in, or I haven't been able to make it in because we drove by, can't get in.
So how many people do you have that get Meals on Wheels? You know how many?
If I had the list with me, I could tell you specifically, I have over 100 signed up. And I generally have anywhere from 25 to 30 a day.
Okay, I'm gonna go a different direction. So when you took over Meals on Wheels, it was across the street at the church before, right? And so did they approach you to ask you to do that, or how did that come about?
Yes, Meals on Wheels approached me and asked me if I would provide it because since Momo's went out of business, there is nowhere in Fairfield County that offers the meals in a restaurant now besides me. The only option that they have is to go down to Lancaster and to get basically their cookie cutter meals, and they don't like them. So if they come to me, they get a meal, fresh food. Yes.
So if I may ask, so prior they were parking in the church parking lot across the street?
When the church had it.
Correct.
But they were going into the church, picking up a meal and leaving and going home. There was no staying and eating
So
it.
did people deliver that to their car, or did they have to walk to the door and up the steps?
That I'm unaware of.
They have a ramp.
They have a rank. Okay, I don't know. Meals on Wheels approached me, but
And I'm just asking, also trying to collect some information that I understand. I've got the image pulled up here. It appears as though, I'm sure you guys are looking at the same image now. So the two parking spaces you're referring to that are in front of the business are really there in front of the AT&T or the phone. Correct, okay. And then over here, I know what you're saying, the lines, and we've been talking about that lining the streets, because there are no lines on either side.
I think it would benefit the other side of the street to have theirs lined as well. Not just on my side, because that parking over there is just as bad.
They're already on.
But any questions, other questions tonight? Because like I said, I know Brandy's gonna have it in safety 2 weeks for further discussion where it's in committee and there's more time to look at it and discuss and consider everything, so. But before anybody else, any follow-up questions?
I have a question. Would it be, like, is it optional to, like, if Meals on Wheels, if somebody pulled up to get their meal and they called and said, hey, I'm out front, and
They don't pull up and just get a meal. The whole purpose of it is for them to come in, have a meal and socialize.
so if the 1 hour parking was there and somebody like, let's just say Chief Tuftsy decides to go there and eat, he parks in the 1 hour, and then somebody else parks in another 1 hour, then that handicapped person is still gonna have to park where they're parking now, right? Correct?
No, they wouldn't park. They would just leave like they are now. The whole point of it is to have, if you put the whole point that I was trying to make against you guys, or not against you, but to you guys, that if you put in 2 handicap spots, you're limiting that literally to only handicap 24/7.
Right.
And you're complaining that you can't have those 2 spots for 1 hour parking. But if we take those 2 spots with 2 handicap spots, now you've completely eliminated.
But my point is, if you make them 1 hour, anybody can park there. So now you're taking away 2 spots that people that were handicapped.
This will be a discussion for safety. If you guys want to come back then and discuss it, we can, but we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Sounds good. No, it's not important.
So let's move on. Agenda. All right, my reports, we'll move on after that. Ryan, were you gonna bring?
No, well, no.
Can you guys step outside?
Excuse
The
me.
microphones don't pick up the recording. So Brad did not pass his test, so he's got another one scheduled. But we'll have to start moving forward with getting one of the names Jason suggested, at least in the pipe, so that on June 1, if Brad doesn't pass the test, you know, he takes it later this month, we'll have a wastewater 2 operator on staff to maintain our EPA requirements.
How long do we allow this to happen?
Well, so it's a good question. The requirements for our wastewater 2 operator to be in the plant, the number of contact hours, as I understand it, is less because Brad is a wastewater 1 license and is there all the time. So the 2 only has to be there so many hours.
I understand that.
If we didn't have Brad at a 1, the wastewater 2 operator would have to be there more hours per week. And I don't know what that is.
That's not my question. My question is, how long do you have a person that cannot pass the test to get what we require? And my question is, why was he hired anyway at a 1 when we needed a 2?
He wasn't at a 1, he worked at it, he worked his way up from a service. And we have to keep in mind that there's like 5 of these plants in the state of Ohio.
I understand that.
So we also have to be careful because, you know, 2's like Jason, the 2 that just left, he will tell you, if you brought him in to run that plant by himself, he would have a hard time because a person that runs a traditional plant can't run this plant because it doesn't work the same. So we have the reverse problem with getting someone with a license. They can't pass the test because the test is on a traditional plant. So we're kind of stuck with decisions that a council 25 years ago made at this plant. You have a valid question, how long do we let it go? But I don't know what the alternative. We had it to when Scott was the village administrator and the plant did not perform like it should have. So we're in that rock and a hard place spot because Brad knows how to run this plant.
I understand.
But he doesn't know how to run a traditional plant. And that's what it takes to pass the test.
And our second person that comes in for 10 hours a week knows how to operate this plant.
No, knows how to operate a traditional plant.
Well, then why is he here? He should be.
Because of the license. Because he has the license.
He has a license and we're
Because
required
the
to.
EPA requires us to have a class 2.
Then tell me that to know where it's going.
He's literally in the plant for 2 hours. And
Right, just
Jason, when he was here, he did a lot to help Brad and some other stuff. But we've also had class 2s in the past that literally said, I have to be here for 10 hours, and they come in, they're there for their 10 hours, they sign the sheet, and they're done. Because that's what the EPA requires. And did little or nothing. Because they don't know how to run the plant.
Okay.
And that's the tough spot we're stuck in.
If I can chime in for just a second, we're hopeful that he'll pass the test in the 1st of June. If he passes it, then he continues to work as a 2.
So.
I understand.
2.
Two this year.
Yeah.
There were several last year.
Okay.
And I don't know council's feeling would be if we found someone and we paid Brad to go to Fairfield County Utilities for a month and work in a traditional plant to learn it, if they would be willing to do that.
He wouldn't come back.
Well, yeah.
He just 2.
Yeah. And so that's where we're stuck. And even the EPA recognizes the issue.
How about
But
the
they're
other
not-
4 plants that's in here or in the States? Who's running theirs?
They don't process sewage, they process water.
What's your question, Dara?
The other plants that are like ours.
They don't process sewage, they process water.
Those membranes are designed for water.
So what Anheuser-Busch has one to filter their water before they make beer out of it. They don't use it for a sewer plant.
Right.
This is the only one in the state of Ohio to use the way we use it.
And there's only a few, I don't remember, do you remember the number in the country that uses this to process sewage? I think it's
In Canada.
Three.
Three, and
Is it maybe one in Michigan? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's less than 10 in the country. It might be even less than 5 in the country that use this type of plant to process sewage.
That we're still paying on until July of 2028.
So this is the problem we have.
Okay,
So,
water district, sewer district.
well, funny you mention that because Fairfield County has been doing a survey of water treatment and water production for more anticipated growth so that they can figure out who can do what and where they may have to build or tap in and utilize. So,
If we have a district and we're not involved, we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Right.
Anyway,
all right. On to happier things. June 6th, the farmer market starts. That's right, Dave? June 6th? All right. Arbor Day was held last week. The scouts showed up and I think they dug the best hole I've seen in years. And then I guess I'll just hit planning and zoning now. We won't have a meeting because this stuff came in not in time to get the notices out. But then Brian patched me in on a call with the guy that's doing the stuff behind the oil can. And he's working on his paperwork and it sounds, he's got his stuff together. When I say he's got his stuff together, he's got a vision, he's got a plan, he's got the process in place. And he's taken all the right steps. So hopefully we'll see that at the next meeting, but we won't be having a planning and zoning meeting this week.
and we haven't had a planning and zoning meeting since I've asked for minutes, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Well,
Because
I'll
I
have to
don't,
check. What date did you? I'll have to double check. I don't think we have, because I think it had no form. So, but I'll double check.
appreciate it. Thank you.
And then I'll have one thing and last call at the end of the meeting. And then if there's nothing else, I'll give it over to Brian for some updates.
I'm sending around the report. I'm sorry. I apologize for not getting this to Brian early enough to get it on to you all. I had a few things in here that I forgot to put in, but not very much. Have enough? Start with parks and pools. Draw attention to the obvious. Obviously, we're behind on mowing because of the rain and workforce shortages. We're encouraged. We're going to have one of the returning seasonal employee will join us next Monday. Actually, we're going to have two, and I'll speak about the other one.
Yeah, we had one started last week.
Well, yeah, he started just for a few hours. Streets and maintenance, doing some road patching. One thing that they did, there was a drain tile over in front of the car company on South Main, and it started to the asphalt starting to crack. It's starting to get way there, and we put some large stone in there. That's going to be a drainage problem we're going to have to address. It's just not handling the water that's coming down through that field and then taking it on further down. Road salt order, I think that was done, right?
Well, we submitted our stuff to buy salt next year.
Right. And street sweeping, I think we talked about that too.
Yeah,
At
we,
the team meeting, so.
Mhm.
And again, they need to hire additional labor in that department. Water department, I'm asking for feedback on this because I did get some phone calls, but I think we've made some pretty big steps in the right direction with our water treatment facility. It's testing out at acceptable levels now. There were some concerns about chlorine, taste and smell. What I'm hearing, and I have to kind of go along with, is we're just not used to that chlorine being in the water. So it's going to take a little while for us to get accustomed to it.
Yeah.
But some people I'll be completely honest with you. Some people complained about it burning their eyes, rashes, things like that. And, you know, I'm sorry to hear those kinds of things, but hopefully those are just isolated incidents that occurred maybe once or maybe only a few times. But I think we're definitely in the right direction with our current water systems. I sent to all of you when we were able to tell the schools to go ahead and start using the water again. So I did visit the facility up there. They're making some improvements. There's a lot of things going on as far as the equipment up there. Some things that are being replaced and the facility being cleaned up. I think that Scott's doing a good job up there. And I think we're going to see the results of that for time to come. There's also meter replacements and conversion, being able to read those digitally. And of course, that's in the process as we can do it. And we could do it a little faster if we hired a water treatment level 1, which I think we have on staff that we could move up there, provided other people were hired, say we're in streets and maintenance. So wastewater, this is a big issue. I remember, Rick, when we had our first meeting, we mentioned that it was a big concern. This is a new process for me, learning quite a bit about it. A lot of upgrades and a lot of maintenance needed to continue to operate the plant. I visited the plant, walked through it with Brad. And last week we visited a water treatment plant in Johnstown where they have that Fournier press that we're talking about. That Fournier press that they operate up there does a great job. I also saw where Dresden, Ohio put one of those in last year. It's a single drum. They have a 3-drum in Johnstown, and it's much drier process. It helps with the wastewater treatment as it's coming out of the facility. Also looking into some funding possibilities. Some possibly through the Department of Agriculture. I've reached out to some folks, and I'll hit on that some more. Several inquiries concerning new builds in and out of the village. Mr. Faco has been handling, for the most part, everything that's outside the village and keeping us in line with what needs to be done there. People have been great. You know, they want to get their houses built. We want to get them approved. They've been really good about getting us information. I've been trying to pass that information on to the mayor as we get it, and to Mr. Faco as well, and also the board. And again, in zoning, as far as code enforcement goes, we're starting to get calls on that, but we're planning on bringing back another part-time seasonal employee. Good so far, right? The bad news. Unfortunately, over the weekend, Friday night sometime, it appears that our gator, our John Deere gator, was stolen from the pool facility. It was there Friday night. It was not there Saturday morning. We contacted the insurance company, and we're covered on it. That's no real consolation, but we will have to find another one to purchase. I think we got that one through AgPro. Afterwards, I spoke with the supervisors. I went over there right away. Spoke with the supervisors. Most of them were there because they're all working on the facility to get it ready to open here in a few weeks. We talked about securing equipment, facilities, doing those kinds of things. We also brainstormed some ideas, which I'll share with you. I'd rather not share these ideas as far as security and those types of things in open council. There are some things we're going to consider that probably we wouldn't want to have the general public know. It's not a big secret or anything, but I think anytime you're doing operational things like that, you want to make sure that you're making good decisions before you actually announce anything. Contacted Spectrum, discussed current internet service, whether or not it's fast enough, whether or not it's reliable enough, and those types of things. And we're actually going to meet with a representative from Spectrum. We're going to WebEx is what we're going to do. Myself, Brian Bibler, and Mike from ABC. One Mike involved in that because, you know, these companies sometimes, I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but sometimes they'll recommend the best thing they can recommend to you, but you don't realize it's probably more than what you need. And we're not going to go down that road. I had a chance meeting with the volunteer groups called Clear Creeks and Byways. Are you familiar with these folks? That's exactly what they do. They go out and they clean up creeks, byways, under bridges, those types of things. I talked to a representative. I sent them an email, waiting to hear back from them. But I think this might be something that it's not just them coming out and doing something for you. It's something they involve the community with volunteers within the community. And we have a number of places that we could probably maybe benefit from that service. Some of our creeks and bridges need a little bit of attention. So I've extended that information to them to see if they're interested in coming out and helping us. You know, I've been in contact with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Rural Development is a program called RCAP, and they do offer grants and loans. They're available to communities like Baltimore. It's for rural communities, improvements in water and wastewater facilities. How much it could be, I'm not sure. I think we probably ought to have a target before we start talking to these folks about either a grant or a loan. My experience with most government agencies, if they offer grants and loans, you're probably looking at a loan before you're looking at a grant. But either way, we'll have to explore it. When we went to the facility and looked at the press, the Fournier press, our question was, how much did it cost to build? The building that it's in, because it has to be housed, has to have electricity. We have electricity at our facility, but it'll have to be moved. And they were at 1.5 million for that. And I know that that's a lot of money. And so I think it's going to take a lot of consideration about your questions about why that system and Mr. Foreman, your comments on that type of system. I mean, I guess it comes back to council about, do we put money into the facility we have, or is there some other course of action we don't have an answer for? Okay. Finally, I met with everybody on the team here, and I can't tell you enough about these folks. They do their jobs every day, and they've really been a big help to me. So I'm with Ms. Reedy that we should try to keep them here as long as we can. That's all I had. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Brian B. Thanks,
Yeah.
Brian H. Brian B. I told you I was going to use him.
You remember last year, I was freaking out over pool employees, and I advertised in the paper and all that stuff. Well, good news is we're almost fully staffed. I think maybe I could probably use one or two more lifeguards, but I'm not freaking out this year. And I did very little advertising. I just put it on our monthly bill flyer a couple months, and that seemed to work this year instead of advertising. But I believe that they're putting water in.
Yeah, it started filling today.
They started filling today, and I've been in consultation with Pleasantville because our facility is large enough to host, to do the lifeguard training. So because we're putting their list together, I'm putting my list together. So that'll probably take place the week before Memorial Day.
So we're on schedule to open.
Yes, and we need to have a little powwow with the managers this week, but other than that, I think we're.
You were mentioning about the grant from the foundation that we're still working with.
Yeah, you can if you
Okay.
You can if you want.
It's pool related. We got a grant from the Fairfield Foundation, probably all aware of that. It happened last year. And there's still some funds there that are going to be used to get some things up to standard. I know there's some umbrellas and maybe some benches and some things like that that we have yet to find a vendor for, but it may open and you might see those things show up as time goes on instead of, you know.
Anything else, Brandy?
No.
Yeah.
No pieces of legislation on for first reading, none on for third reading. There are 3 pieces of legislation on for a second reading. Several of those have emergency language. Brian will share with us which of those we need to consider for passage on an emergency basis. And that's all I have.
Okay, Mayor, we met tonight, the short meeting, we went over finance, and everything seemed to be in working order. There is a few with the employees adding and yesterday, we all kind of in the red, but Brian will work it out, get it, see what happens.
Service did not meet today. Our next meeting will be the 22nd, 6 o'clock.
Yes, we did not meet this evening, but we will also meet on May 22nd on the service.
And we will anticipate discussion on parking.
Yes, we definitely are anticipating a lot of discussion regarding the parking.
And rules.
Mayor, we did meet tonight. We had lengthy discussions about several things, and our next meeting will be on June 12th after finance.
And please.
Okay. Let's see here. New hires. We have 2 potential new hires, one of which I almost have his background completed. I'm waiting on 2 things to come in. Looking at, we're really starting to look at this whole part-time police thing where we, have an amount budgeted for part-timers. So from the last attempted hiring block through this attempted hiring block, we have had 0 applications for anybody that wants a part-time police job. It's just, there's nobody out there. I contacted some other chiefs in the area. They're saying the same thing, that part-time thing has kind of almost become the old reserve officer thing. Nobody wants to volunteer their time and nobody wants a part-time job. So I may be coming to council to talk about the viability of that, whether we should shift some of that funding into another avenue to get more coverage. We have a coroner, one of the investigators from the coroner's office will be coming June 5th here, and the school has offered us in their administration.
I gotta say it. You know something we don't? You
No.
just said the coroner's investigators.
No, not that you can know. But anyway, June 5th, he's going to come in and we're going to do a block on death investigations. They're very complicated, from dealing with survivors that are on the scene to the after, the after of it, depending on what the situation is. If you're dealing with kids, if you're dealing with whatever community this size, it's very possible that an officer would arrive on the scene and be dealing with somebody that they know. So part of that is also talking about making sure that people that respond are okay after the fact. Officer Laner has a very badly sprained wrist. She fell off duty and is going to an orthopedic tomorrow to get that checked. We did complete the active shooter training. It went well. We also sent officers over to Kettering, Ohio for autism training. Autism is really becoming prevalent in our school systems and in the communities. And bluntly, it can be really misdiagnosed as some sort of a psychological issue or a mental disability versus when in reality it's autism. And having that ability to understand the difference in the two is, whether you're in police, fire, school, whatever, that is a tool you absolutely have to have. Our goal is we're going to add that to the list. Every officer will have to complete the autism training. On POTA training, their mandated training, depending on the day of the week, it's on again, off again. So we don't know what the hours will be, whether it's going to be the same as last year or what. If they do not mandate the 24 hours of state training, we're going to go through and find 24 hours on our own, put it in the box and make sure that we're up to speed with that. And other than that, that's all I really have.
Questions for the chief?
Take his notes and bring it.
All right. Fire board.
Fire department report is same as was last meeting. Their last meeting was April 20th. The next meeting is May 18th, at which time they will have a celebration of 50 years of paramedic service at the beginning.
Of May, they didn't do it this past one. I thought they were good. Oh,
A lot of people come in, the older medics.
okay.
And again, I cannot attend that, so if somebody else maybe can help. That'd be great.
So 50 years in the industry or 50 years here?
Paramedics.
Yes, okay. Wow. That's nice.
Moving on, village committees and commissions. I already hit planning and zoning. Kind of hit tree commission because they had Arbor Day, which is required to maintain Tree City. Nothing for records commission. So motion. Hearing no motion immediately, we'll move on to ordinance and resolutions. No first reading, so second reading is ordinance 2023-07, which is an ordinance amending the traffic control map by erecting one hour maximum parking limit sign at the intersection of Walnut Street, Market Street. Sponsor is form.
Yeah, there's been sufficient discussion on this tonight, I would say. It's going to be discussed again in safety. I will not be able to attend that meeting. It's only on for second readings, and it's going to carry on for third reading.
Discussion of safety. Resolution 2023-08, resolution electing the standard allowance permitted be designated as revenue replacement expenditure of coronavirus and funds established under the American Rescue Act. The declaration of emergency sponsor is formed.
Yeah, this one was necessary to allocate the Corona fund. And this is the one, okay, this is just on for a third reading.
All right, this is on for a third reading at our May 22nd. All right.
It's the next one.
And then 2023-09, which is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to sign a contract with BK Layer for North Granville Street water line and roadway improvement project and the declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Foreman.
Yeah, this is in order to facilitate BK Layer overseeing the project on Granville Street. And due to time constraints, Foreman makes a motion to Foreman makes a motion to suspend 3 readings and bypass.
That's been through committee, I think.
Been through committee.
So we just need to bypass 3 readings.
Bypass 3 readings.
All right, is there a second?
Yeah, second.
We already got that. All right. Roll call.
Okay, Foreman.
Yes.
And Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
Cosgrave.
Cosgray stepped out, so there'll be discussion, but it passes 5.
Foreman makes a motion to adopt.
3 seconds.
All right, discussion on adoption. Hearing none, roll call.
Foreman,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Keller,
Yeah.
McCreary,
Yes.
Schaffner,
Yes.
and Cosgray.
Cosgray stepped out, it passes 5, even with his abstention. We'll give you that. You gotta go. Sorry to hear.
I'll get it. Go ahead, I'll get it.
I got it.
First side.
Third readings, none. Tabled ordinances, none. Oh, in case I didn't say 2022-9 was adopted. By emergency passed by the, so I'll sign that. Old business. Hearing none. New business. I did forget to mention during my report as well, House Bill 93 got a first reading the other day. It's an update to what municipalities can do for utility services with regards to collection, allowing us to specifically add property taxes, authorizing private lawsuits for sewer where it wasn't previously authorized, and it includes language that it can be the owner, tenant, or other responsible party. So it's kind of getting the state law in line with our stuff. So, any visitors, Bobby? Anything for close? Any council have last call? I have one thing for last call. No, you first.
Well, the one thing I had, parks, not the park, but all the teams, have you been able to contact them? I know we had a hard time last year. I'm going.
It's in my notes about, you're talking about the coaches for the teams or the organizers. I think there's only one who's paid. Is that right?
Baseball's the only one that's paid.
And
Yeah, that was about the only one to help last year.
yeah, I'm gonna run it down.
Good. Good luck.
We'll try.
I got the swim team and she's willing. The swim team's really good.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with the swim team person.
I don't want to be too hard on volunteers.
No, but I see about the playing and I know Terry had a hard time.
Yeah, it was part of our team meeting. Yeah. Thank you.
So then my last call, so we've got a lot going on. And going on and a lot of changes. I think the last 6 months of the year are going to be interesting for the village. Later this summer, I will be moving out of the village. Revised code says that if you're not an elector, you're not qualified. So my last day as mayor will be June 30th. Because I won't be in the So, sorry. What happens next?
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, tell me what happened.
I think one of my last things I'll do would be then to swear you in Westwater as acting mayor.
I don't think you have to.
Okay, so the law says that
It's-
on
you shot
July
at it.
1st, Darla will become acting mayor. Because it happens in the last year, my term was up this year anyway. So it would have been the expiration of my 2 terms. Because it's in that last year, there is no special election or anything. Darla will be mayor for the last 6 months of the year. Council has the option to appoint someone to her council seat for that term, 6 months. Then when whomever is elected mayor in November starts on January 1, that temporary council person's term would expire. You would go back to your seat on council, and the village moves on. So, in the next 6 weeks, help getting Brian up to speed on everything, and I'm sure Miss Reedy will be texting me about things left and right. I'll still be around, because my law office is still here. I have to sell my house. and quite frankly, Kevin and each other line really good, so I'll still be around. And I don't know that I'll officially. I'll still be around. Like I said, that's just going to be the hard date so that everybody's sitting can plan and move forward. So, sorry. All right. So with that bombshell, if there's no questions.
Thanks for throwing that one at me.
Yeah.
Next meeting, and then I make a motion to adjourn.
Next meeting will be May 22nd at 7:30.
Makes a motion to adjourn.
McCreary seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unanimous voice vote. That would be a 5-0 voice vote, no, Brian.
Yes.
Are you gonna teach her the secret handshake?
Yeah. Yep.